Choosing vocabulary for the classroom. Vocabulary development is a very important part of learning language. It acts as a cornerstone to expressive language, receptive language, and literacy. The more words a child knows, the more they will be able to understand what they hear and read, as well as express themselves. Vocabulary can be learned through explicit or implicit learning. Implicit learning involves learning vocabulary through common language acquisition and daily speech, also known as in-the-moment learning. Explicit learning involves an active focus on the specific knowledge, or in this case, vocabulary, to be learned. Teachers must decide what vocabulary words they need to explicitly teach in the classroom in order to build their students' vocabulary in the most efficient way. Today we will be discussing how to select words to explicitly teach in the classroom. Before we can decide what words are appropriate, we need to review the 3 tiers of vocabulary. Vocabulary is made up of 3 tiers. Tier 1 vocabulary is made up of the most basic words. These are words used in everyday speech and those that are typically found in oral language. Tier 1 words rarely require explicit instruction and are usually learned through everyday experiences. Some examples of Tier 1 words are back, walk, map, and look. Tier 2 words are commonly referred to as academic words. They have a high utility for language and literacy and a high frequency of use for mature language users. They're also often words that can be used in a variety of curricular areas. Another way to think of a Tier 2 word is a word that doesn't reflect the most basic way of expressing an idea, but still remains familiar. Some examples of Tier 2 words are compare, contrast, and determine. Tier 3 words are domain-specific and cannot be used among different curricular areas. For this reason, Tier 3 words are also usually low-frequency words. Some examples of Tier 3 words are photosynthesis, circumference, and legislator. So what tier is best to explicitly teach in the classroom? Tier 2. Tier 2 words seem to have the most utility due to the fact that they can be applied to a variety of classroom activities and curriculums. Tier 2 words also offer students a more mature way of expressing ideas they already know about. Adding Tier 2 words to a student's vocabulary is productive because it allows the student to describe things and situations with greater specificity. It takes concepts they're already familiar with and builds off of that prior knowledge. It is not simply introducing a synonym. Tier 2 words represent more accurate and complex forms of familiar concepts. For example, explicitly teaching the word maintain may build off the child's prior knowledge that maintain means something like keep going. Then, add that it actually means to keep something in its present condition or at its present level. Now let's talk about the criteria for identifying Tier 2 words. The first thing to think about is whether or not the word has high utility and importance in the classroom. An example of a group of words that would be of high utility and importance are verbs used in higher-level questions asked of students. Verbs such as justify, interpret, and differentiate need to be taught explicitly so students know how to organize their thinking when faced with these verbs in a question. The second thing to think about is the instructional potential of the word. Is it a word that will have high frequency in the classroom? Will it be useful in a variety of curricular activities? As discussed earlier, students are not only learning the vocabulary you choose to explicitly teach with vocabulary goals in mind. Students are also explicitly and implicitly learning vocabulary in other subjects such as science and social studies. For this reason, you may want to choose words that will provide general utility across all subjects, or words that will present themselves in more than one subject area. The third thing to think about is the student's current conceptual understanding of the word. As previously discussed, Tier 2 words build off of prior knowledge in order to create more mature ways for students to refer to things. You need to ask yourself if the word builds off of a prior knowledge of another concept and/or word. This will help you use the student's current conceptual knowledge to introduce the new vocabulary. Here is a quick flowchart to help you determine what tier a word may belong in. You can refer back to this chart when you are unsure what tier a word would fit in and whether or not it's worth explicitly teaching in the classroom. Now it's your turn. This is part of a story that would likely be for 3rd or 4th graders. Pick 5 words in this paragraph that you feel fit Tier 2 criteria. Based on the Tier 2 criteria, I chose the words merchant, required, tend, maintain, fortunate, performed, and benevolent. I chose these words because they are all words that are likely to appear in a wide variety of texts and in the written and oral language of mature language users. They also build off of prior knowledge and represent a more specific way of referring to something a student likely already knows about. For example, a child in 3rd or 4th grade might describe the word required as meaning have to, which you could build off of to describe required as meaning something that must be done or is essential to do in order to achieve a certain result. It's okay if we didn't choose the same words. Unfortunately, the lines between vocabulary tiers are blurry. What one person may select as a Tier 2 word may not be the same as the next person. This is due to the fact that criteria for Tier 2 words change with the student's knowledge level and the teacher's goal and curriculum in the classroom. Despite the flexible nature of the vocabulary tiers, this activity helps frame the overwhelming task of choosing candidate words for instruction. Aiming to select and explicitly teach Tier 2 words in the classroom will help build your students' vocabulary in an effective and efficient manner. Good